All right, thank you very much for that lovely introduction, and thank you all for the opportunity to meet with you today. I'm honored to represent the U.S. National Science Foundation before this distinguished audience. I was honored to be present when the U.S. National Academy of Sciences welcomed Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for a breakfast meeting on April 30th with several U.S. leaders in the fields of science, engineering, and medicine. The meeting was co-hosted by Koji Omi, founder and chairman of the Science and Technology and Society Forum. Prime Minister Abe told us, quote, "Japan should take advantage of its high level of science and technology to promote peace and prosperity, especially peace based on the principle of international cooperation." I was delighted to hear the Prime Minister make those points, and I strongly agree with him. Here in the middle picture, you can see the Prime Minister. To his right, not visible, was the ambassador to the United States from Japan. Then you can see going clockwise Omi-san and Asako Omi, a member of parliament, MIT's Nobel Prize winner Jerome Friedman, Rush Holt, who, as you heard, cannot be with us today, who is CEO of the AAAS, Dr. Francis Collins, who is the head of the National Institutes of Health, Secretary of Energy, Ernie Moniz, John Holdren, who is known to many of you, he's President Obama's science advisor, Ralph Cicerone, who's head of the National Academies, and myself. Also out of the field of view, but attending, were Rita Colwell, who was the first woman to lead the National Science Foundation, Deborah Wynn Smith, who is the head of the Council on Competitiveness, and Ellis Rubinstein, who is head of the New York Academy of Sciences. In 2010, I had the honor of attending the Nobel Prize ceremony of H. Negishi, who is with us, as you will see in a moment here today, sitting in the front row. He's a longtime Purdue professor and pioneering chemist. He said, quote, "The final reward for any researcher is to see his or her lifetime of work extend beyond academia and laboratories into the mainstream of our global society, where it can breathe hope into the world," unquote. Dr. Negishi, of course, is best known for his discovery of the Negishi coupling, which gives a more precise and efficient means of binding complex carbon compounds, enabling a new generation of pharmaceuticals and innovative advances in electronics. NSF has proudly supported the work of Dr. Negishi and many leading-edge researchers, of whom 214 have received Nobel Prizes to date. Basic research has always been the primary focus of NSF. That research has led to a great number of scientific discoveries that have transformed our lives. For example, fundamental astronomy research funded by NSF Technical Innovations helped fine-tune the Global Positioning System, or GPS, whose use in navigation, disaster relief, defense mapping, and other endeavors is widely known. And of course, it's probably well known to most of you that GPS itself relies on general relativity and discovered almost exactly 100 years ago by the great Mr. Einstein. NSF also played a critical role in mainstreaming the internet, helping shape its growth and operation. In the 1990s, NSF led the multi-agency Digital Library Initiative that funded research into the expanding field of accessible interfaces for net-based data collections, which eventually led to the formation of Google. In fact, the two co-inventors, initiators of Google were both NSF funded. Larry Page was receiving funding for the Stanford Digital Libraries project when he hit upon this page ranking scheme that distinguished the Google search engine. And Sergey Brin was an NSF-funded graduate student who worked with him. And then once they figured out that it really did work, they moved into a friend's garage where they set up Google. The rest is history. Another example, NSF research helped perfect the accuracy of reading the barcodes we find on everything from candy bars to airplane tickets to shipping containers. Tornadoes are a major threat to life and property in many areas of the US and other countries. And in fact, as I speak to you this morning, much of our nation is under tornado watch. Basic weather sensoring at the NSF-supported National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado, was instrumental in developing Doppler radar as a meteorological research tool and enabling greater accuracy in forecasting the location and severity of weather. NSF basic research has helped to improve the lives of millions of people with the development of magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, now widely used in hospitals and clinics to detect tumors and internal tissue damage in patients. Basic research remains the primary focus of NSF. However, we have to acknowledge that the pace of technology development and transfer have accelerated. Inventions are being brought to market more quickly in many domains. Indeed, as in our country, as in Japan and many countries of the world, there's greater and greater emphasis on delivering discovery much faster timescales. And so I'm going to really focus on that in my remarks. This emphasis offers new paradigms for leveraging investments with increased focus on interdisciplinary research. A great example is the iPhone, which incorporates art and design, new technologies, GPS, and even a social science approach to utilization. You see here an exploded view in the picture of an iPhone with several different technologies that it took in order to make the smartphone that we know and love and use. And a number of those technologies were first funded by NSF. For example, starting at the top, touch screens, then memory chip for CPU, multi-core processes going down into the iPhone, then RAM, or random access memory, then GPS, and finally the battery, the lithium-ion battery. I don't usually bring my purse to a podium, but I did so for a reason today, because I wanted to exhibit how many things that I have in my purse that were recent inventions using these kinds of technologies, many of them first funded by NSF or by agencies like the ones you represent. So I mentioned the iPhone, right? And there you have the exploded view. Then there's my airplane ticket with the barcode, which is laser read. NSF proudly funded the Nobel Prize winner, Charles Townes, 70 times, that's 70 times, to invent the maser and then help on work with the next invention, the laser. I mentioned the pharmaceuticals that H. Negishi helped develop. About 25 or 30% of them are here because of his coupling. And then, of course, there's the LED, okay, which we use for many, many things. And the blue one, of course, just recently won the Nobel Prize. And then finally, how do we get into our rooms with magnetic stripe cards? So all of these are fairly recent inventions, right, in just the last 2 or 3 decades. And we should be proud as funding agencies that fund basic research, that kind of research then led with very smart people putting them together as they put together several different technologies in the iPhone into just incredible new innovations that are now we regard as essential. So I'd like to talk about various funding mechanisms that NSF has for bringing discovery to delivery and bringing it to that translation much faster than we've been used to in the past. NSF was the first U.S. federal agency to start a small business innovation research program and a small business technology transfer program. The economic and industrial impact of these programs, which incentivize and enable startups and small businesses to undertake R&D with high technical risk and high commercial reward, has been enormous. And now all of the agencies fund these kinds of startup companies. They're called SBIR for Small Business Innovative Research and STTR for Small Technology Transfer Research when they occur in universities, to the tune of billions of dollars a year. I want to highlight what's in this slide, which are several other specific funding mechanisms that NSF has been developing. So first of all, interdisciplinary centers. We've developed centers that draw on partnerships across industry, government, the private sector, and universities. And these include centers for chemical innovation, which address major long-term fundamental challenges in chemical research. They include science and technology centers, which tackle complex, potentially transformative research through large multidisciplinary collaborations. And a fairly recent example of one would be the MIT Science and Technology Center for Research into the Brain and Mind. They include materials research science and centers and engineering centers, which advance our understanding of materials research and education. They include advancing technological education centers, which prepare a skilled high-tech workforce through partnerships among industry and community colleges. And they include science of learning centers, in which we try to understand how people learn through very creative, diverse kinds of research processes. And they also include something that is not on this list, but we have a lot of centers called industry, university, cooperative research centers, which are leveraged by industry funding 10 times the investment of NSF funding. And then, in addition to interdisciplinary centers, there are programs, and I'll just highlight one of them. This is known as biomaps, or research at the interface of the biological, mathematical, and physical sciences and engineering. Research includes activities such as the development of models informed by statistical physics that establish mechanisms linking the biological functions of chromosomes to their cellular structure. This is a model of HIV. It's just one example of the innovations that have resulted from biomaps. The program allows scientists to explore viruses, bacteria, and parts of the human body in astonishing detail. Another innovative mechanism is called Early Concept Grants for Exploratory Research, or EAGRs for short. EAGR in English means to be very excited about doing something, and so it's a nice acronym for Early Concept Grants. They focus on evidence-based practices in exploratory research that may lead to new models and best practices. So here are two examples. On the left is an EAGR grant named Zooniverse that enables a citizen anywhere to contribute to research using social networking models from a home computer to communicate an image of an interacting galaxy from the Sloan Digital Sky Survey. That digital sky survey in the hands of citizen scientists has yielded a number of new discoveries that would not have been made by regular scientists looking for other things. On the right is postdoctoral researcher Li Deng, who stands on the deck of a research vessel that uses sensors to measure salinity, temperature, and depth of the ocean, as well as collect samples for microbial and viral analysis. These insights improve our ability to predict future ocean productivity and health, and can be applied to other systems where microorganisms play important roles, including agricultural systems and the human body. NSF's Rapid Response Research Funding Mechanism, called RAPID as an acronym for short, enables NSF to receive and respond to urgent proposals for quick response research regarding natural or anthropogenic disasters, such as the recent earthquake in Nepal or the Ebola crisis last year. It's a mechanism where instead of taking months to review proposals and months to give hopeful proposers an answer, we actually turn around the proposals inside of just 2 or 3 weeks' time. It's very fast, very effective. A rapid award to the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution enabled it to track the impact of the 2011 Japan earthquake and tsunami, following radioactivity in the Kuroshio Current and establishing baseline concentrations of radionuclides in the Pacific Ocean. Another funding mechanism that NSF uses is the Cyber Infrastructure Framework for 21st Century Science, Engineering, and Education, which is called CIF 21. It's research to provide advanced cyber infrastructure and new capabilities in computational and data-enabled science and engineering. This infrastructure includes investments in world-class supercomputers, such as one called Stampede, shown here at the Texas Advanced Computing Center. And then there's international partnerships, another great way in order to leverage our investment to make scientific breakthroughs. International partnerships enable NSF and its international partners to extend the reach of their research capacity. The Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array, called ALMA, is a telescope in Chile. It happens to be located on the Altiplano, about 16,000 feet in elevation, and I had the privilege of traveling there just a couple of weeks ago. It has received more than $1 billion in investments from a broad international coalition led by NSF and including Japan, Chile, Europe, and North America. ALMA is opening up an exciting new window into our universe and providing a testing ground for theories of star birth and stellar evolution and solar system and galaxy formation. It recently captured what you can see in the left-hand photo here, the early formation of a solar system around an infant star. I think you'll agree that's remarkable detail for planets forming around another star. And then there's the aspect, too, of big data that ALMA and other large telescopes are producing, which offers more opportunity to develop methods of rapid computer analysis. Researchers tell us that big data is the big challenge for the present and especially for the future. And so NSF is tuning its investments to encourage universities to adopt curricula so that students will be well-versed not only in their domain science, but also in computer analysis techniques to take full advantage of the big data that is coming our way. And our more recent Innovation Core programs, called I-Core, uses public-private partnerships to create an ecosystem for innovation that couples scientific discovery with technology development and societal needs. It's truly a fast track from innovation to market. It's been a big sensation since we gave the first grants about 3 to 4 years ago to Stanford professor Stephen Blank. You can go onto his .com website to see just how effectively he's utilized it. But now we have nodes all over the country, and indeed other countries are, like the country of Mexico, are adopting this way of involving graduate students and their mentors, their professors, and businesses in taking discoveries to market very, very quickly. In fact, the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Energy in our country have also recently, in the past year, copied this program. In the slide, we see one societal need being addressed. Until recently, a reliable, low-cost, non-invasive method to measure changes that occur in the water content of the lungs did not exist. An NSF-funded scientist at the John A. Burns School of Medicine invented a new kind of stethoscope that attaches to the body surface, much like an EKG sensor, and uses a novel radio frequency RF sensor to detect small changes in lung water and monitor vital signs, including heart and respiration rate and stroke volume. Finally, we should always encourage our graduate students to take advantages of the opportunities to build international collaborations. NSF and JSPS have a long history of collaborating on a program that enables US graduate students to spend the summer doing research in Japan, giving them valuable experience that will help them become leaders in the next generation of scientists and engineers. Every summer, we bring 65 US graduate students here to Japan for this program. We call them the Discoverers of Tomorrow. In this picture, this was taken from last year at the start of the summer program, where they gathered to celebrate the firsthand research experiences they would be having with some of Japan's leading scientists and engineers. Perhaps some of them will follow in the footsteps of Professor Negishi and become the Nobel Prize winners of the next generation. So let me offer my great thanks to JSPS for inviting me to this very productive exchange of ideas. I look forward to today's conference and to tomorrow's interactions with the Global Research Conference. I'm very happy that the focus of today is on scientific breakthroughs, because that's really the mission of the U.S. National Science Foundation. Today, I focused on one increasingly important aspect of this mission, which is more rapid translation from discovery to delivery. Thank you very much.